I'm not somebody who gets turned on by, studies about fucking lifting weights so you can get 3% bigger or reach your natty limit, 6 months earlier. Actually, that stuff entirely just turns me the fuck off. Just really, because I suppose that stems from a belief that you only really need the fundamentals to get most of the way there. And there definitely comes a point where you start overthinking things, right?
Yeah.
Now, whether that overthinking is technically overthinking comes down to whether it's worth it for you. And I could probably be in better shape if I spent X amount more time thinking about the gym and watching Jeff Nippard videos and staying and not just knowing that, but then implementing all these like optimization methods. I could probably be in better shape. Personally, I think I'm in good enough shape,
I think
I'd,
so too.
I'd rather read a fucking book about something, I'd rather read about dinosaurs than about the gym, man. Do you know what I mean? So like, it depends how far your enthusiasm can go with it, really. I think you, like me, have made the choice that this is about as interested as we are in it, even though we want to be in good shape, we want to stay in good shape, and we're passionate about doing that. We're probably not passionate about the science side of it. And this is not knocking science or science-based content. It's great, it's helpful. Ultimately, if you can get better results in the gym from the same amount of time, that's the definition of optimizing, right? Ultimately, you should do that. I just, might have a mental breakdown if I have to watch if I have to watch these videos and not just watch these videos, if I have to make these videos, if I have to make these videos, that means inevitably I have to read a lot of studies, and that is the driest shit you will ever read, man. Like, there just comes a point where I'm like, I don't, my personal approach is not this one. And so that's why, the consequence of that is that I have to repeat myself in videos because I just talk about the same kind of topics. But like I say, you title your video well, you do a good thumbnail, then you can at least excuse that somewhat because you're reaching a new audience. So you're saying the same thing, but not always to the same people. And so that's how I live with myself. That's how I sleep at night.
So in terms of fitness advices and trends that you see are currently going around, what do you think is like the most overrated advice currently? Like, even like not content creation, like let's go into actual fitness. I would probably say the whole carnivore thing, like animal-based wooden board, chopping board guys at the moment.
Yeah. There's, you see, it's hard to answer without going into like large scale societal trends, isn't there? Because there is an anti-establishment trend, which then becomes like anti everything trend, which throws babies out with bathwater. You know what I mean? And then you can get into very like, 3 a.m. JRE territory pretty soon, man. I definitely think carnivore is just a horrific way to live your fucking life. You know what I mean? But again, you kind of, this is the difficulty, right? This is why it kind of comes down to like the fundamental way that algorithms work. Like, extreme things are going to be magnified, right? And so, like, one other danger. I'll tell you the other kind of dangerous trend, which is again overarching, is this search for a sound bite all the time, right?
Yes.
What you have to realize is like the internet is just people saying things, right? That's people say things, right? It's human nature to say things, right? That they think sound good, that will go viral, that can get clipped, right? And you see people who should know better, right? But you can pick out so many instances, right? I've seen Andrew Huberman say things with so much fucking conviction, and then I'll go Google some shit, and I'm like, oh yeah, there was like one study on rats that showed some mild effect, and he's like, take Tonga Ali, it
I'm
some
currently taking it. I'm currently
bullshit
taking
like
it.
this, right?
Tonga Ali and Fodosia aggressors, and I haven't noticed any difference. Like,
Right. So there's this just not it's more than a trend, right? Isn't it? It's just an inclination to say something that can get clipped into short form content, right? So
yeah, that's
people
actually a perfect. That's a good answer. I
you
didn't think of
know
that. That's like its
uh,
own fitness trend in itself.
even you remember years ago we watched that, did we watch it together, the Matthew Walker sleep podcast?
Yeah,
So if you have a look into some of the, because that was a real moment in like fact porn, wasn't it? It was like
yeah. He
one
did all
liners,
the percentages, and he
one
had them
liners
all
like,
memorized.
the day after daylight savings, because everyone gets an hour less sleep, heart attacks go up by this X amount. All these things that can be clipped, right? And everyone was like, "This is the best podcast ever. It's so interesting." Right? If you actually look into a lot of the claims in that, there's like they're not really, they shouldn't be delivered with the conviction that he delivers them, right? And I remember reading all these kind of refutations online to just some of the sound bites, like not all of it, of course, like, and I thought, this guy is just saying stuff, and now that's the lens through which I look at a lot of healthy skepticism. I think, especially anything that's put forward, as I suppose what it is the trend towards science based content with lifting, with general health overall, it gets kind of it leads to exaggeration, essentially, doesn't it? It leads to people being too quick off the mark. The scientific method is not, one new study comes out with a small sample and, indicates that some method is better than some other method, or, something is, you know, efficacious, or it's not react quickly to one study. That is anti-scientific, right? It's not go on a fucking podcast and tell millions of people, with conviction that this is that A is categorically better than B. That is anti-scientific, right?
Yeah.
Skepticism is scientific. That's the whole point, right? And so, like, I think just if you are personally on a health journey, the best thing you can do is become scientifically literate, right? Fight fire with fire, right? The best thing you can do is learn to read a study, right? And learn to go on Google Scholar and PubMed and search for things and actually try and interpret things, because you will see, people will certainly pick and choose, right? You find this in fitness, right? You find this so much in fitness that there'll be some study comes out, it's about like myo reps or something, which actually the main study that everyone made videos about myo reps from was never actually published. But that's a whole tangent, right? Some study comes out, everyone's like, oh, you should do deloads, right? Deloads are great. A few years later, and all the scientific channels do it, right? A few years later, some study, deloads are bad,
They
everyone
don't
makes a
matter.
video, don't deload, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like it's very fickle, and you have to always understand that social media and social media algorithms and the quest for clicks will infect the purity of it. There is a conflict of interest, right? Because uh, you know doing doing a lot of clicks and doing well on social media isn't always aligned with keeping people rationally informed. You know what I mean? And so if you're on your own personal fitness journey, then I think the best thing you can do is just be a fucking normal, rational, and reasonable person, man. Just don't join a cult, and like don't have knee jerk reactions to podcast sound bites. Just be a normal person, man.